we've had a lovely pre-podcast chat. I've gotten to know you now. It's the reason why you come onto the podcast, because you are very unique. Boutique gets thrown around quite a bit, actually, when it comes to financial planning, wealth management, family offices. For those that don't understand, if you were to describe a business as boutique, what does it mean?
Yeah, boutique is like the word holistic, isn't it? It gets used far too often, and it's a bit of a cliche, but often it's a euphemism for small to some degree. But to me, it's a term that we use because we're a nimble business, we're a relatively small business, and also I think a high-end business. We don't necessarily want to be the biggest, but we want to be the best. And I think that sort of formed our business plan right at the very start when we were sort of in the stages of ideation for Frazer James.
Love it. So you and Chris came together to build Frazer James. But first off, you're here. So just tell us a little bit about yours and Chris's backgrounds and how you end up coming together to form Frazer James with a combined mindset of where you want to take this business.
Well, like all good stories, it started in a pub in Bristol, where we were effectively complaining about the businesses that we were in. Our backgrounds are pretty varied. We worked at big and small businesses, and we saw the benefits of big businesses being very process orientated, really well organized, but perhaps missing that personal touch to some degree. And then we also worked in kind of smaller businesses where the personalization of advice was brilliant, but ultimately the back office was kind of chaos and not very well ran. So we started thinking about trying to take the best from both worlds and bring those together. And that was kind of the starting point for us in that pub in King Street in Bristol.
Love it. So traditional firm structure, both of you have been a part of it on your career journeys. You're looking at it and you're thinking there are things that we like and there are things that we dislike. And you came together through frustration and Frazer James over a pint of beer on King Street.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Became a business. Love
Indeed.
it. Excellent. When you started that business, okay, it's very difficult to start a business without, say, any clients. Okay, so there's a big leap of faith. You've got to take a risk and you've got to have confidence in yourself to run that business. I just want to go straight to that point because a lot of people who listen thinking that's really brave to set up a business. But what did you do when you first started? Because you have to start on zero, don't you, at the end of the day?
Absolutely.
So what did you do in the beginning to the point of where you started to build real confidence that you were building a business that clients were interested in?
Sure. Some might say brave, some might say naive. It's probably a bit of both. But we started with absolutely zero clients. So there was some of our own financial planning that needed to be done, some cost cutting to be done there. But ultimately, we had a huge focus on marketing. And that was really, we had a lot of time and no clients, no referrals because we had no clients. So starting from the ground up was incredibly challenging, but it's also been incredibly rewarding as well. So we threw a lot of spaghetti at a lot of walls, I suppose, with regards to marketing. If you can think of it, we tried it. And one thing that we did from the very start was really try and measure what works, what has a positive ROI. So everything from kind of pay-per-click advertising right the way through to going to network events and trying to drum up business that way. So that was a real challenge, but when we look back, it's really stood us in great stead for where we are today.
Fantastic. So what worked from a marketing perspective for you then and what didn't? What was the biggest, oh God, I wish we never did that, to thank God we found that?
The biggest thing that worked for us actually was digital marketing, which today has become a lot more saturated. Things like SEO, creating really useful content with that end ideal client in mind, and we picked up a lot of traction with that. And I think a lot of firms now have clued up on that. But for example, through some of the things we did, we ultimately became pretty high up on Google page one when someone typed in financial advisor in Bristol, for example, which is ironic because we're a remote business now, which is, I'm sure is something we'll come on to.
Yep.
But ultimately the digital marketing thing really worked, but we also used things like unbiased, things like Google Ads, and everything in between, I suppose.
What about networking events? Did you go along? Do you have professional introducer relationships? Have they worked for you?
We did lots of networking events. I think the networking events actually take a lot of time to actually work. You need to build up that level of trust. And I think it's only today where we're starting to see the fruits of the long-term labor that's been put into that. We probably made the mistake of being a bit stop-start on that as well. So we've certainly not got everything right, far from it. But we've learned a lot of lessons, and now the kind of professional connection relationships, as we call them, now that is really kind of building up some traction. And I think, the company being better known in the area, I think that probably helps with that as well.
I love it. So was there a point where you felt super confident that, okay, people are buying into us as a business now, and we're able to scale the business, maybe hire some people to service those clients, for us to move forward? Yeah, was there a point? How long did it take?
I think it was about 2 years till we probably got to that point. I mean, it took a while to just break even, with a financial planning business. Okay, there's not huge overhead where there's just 2 directors not taking any money from the business. So it took a bit of a while, but we started to get traction. As we started working with clients, we delivered what I would say is kind of an exceptional service to them. And that led to them referring family, friends, etc., and us growing organically in that way as well.
Okay. Just talking about the types of clients that you actually service and you work with and you provide the services. Is there a specific niche that you've doubled down on, or are you catering for everybody? Is there a specific net worth or a job title? Did you sort of subscribe to those types of niches, or are you somebody who is looking to service everybody?
Somewhere in the middle, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
We probably have 2 niches that we work with. One is small business owners, owner-managed businesses. And we have a pretty broad range of those, anything from kind of a one-man band, high-profit business, all the way to a £50 million, sort of global enterprise.
Okay.
And the kind of directors of those. And also sector agnostic. So from publishing to financial services to retail to manufacturing, we kind of work with all sorts of business owners in that space. And then the other kind of niche, I suppose, that we gained more by accident than on purpose was tech employees.
Okay.
So the compensation structure is often quite complex. They've got RSUs, they've got stock options, they've got all these different things going on. And we started working with a couple of people by chance, provided some more content, started targeting that sort of area. And now that makes up a reasonable portion of our client base as well. So I would say those 2 areas. So our general client base probably runs younger than average.
Okay.
The average age might be around 50. I've got the data somewhere. Chris would know exactly the average age, but it's somewhere around there. Whereas I think the average client age for most advisory firms is probably pushing 60, if not higher.
Yeah, it's around 55 years old, the average.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was one, when I was at Hoxton, for example, I think the average age was about 53 years old. They had quite a younger clientele because you can imagine like a lot of international people moving around.
Yeah.
Tend to be a lot younger.